Okay, so finishing a little bit more here on the bow. I want to find where the point needs to be, and this is where having our center line already marked on the bow from when we did the bow hatch fits in perfectly, because I can just simply lay a straight edge and trace out where the point of the bow needs to be, which amazingly enough is right there. Now, as I've always told you, don't go to a sharp point, you'll crunch it. So we want to go back to where the bow is a minimum of 2 inches. Yeah, 2 inches. There we go. Learn how to remember how to run a ruler again. It's pretty amazing that I could forget. I'm going to do it for a living sometimes. So roughly that is going to be the bow. The rest of these chopped off. I'm going to have to glue a little bit more foam underneath, depending on how I shape stuff. But that was just another step that needed to be taken care of. So now I have a center line. When we do the symmetry check on the top of the hull, we're going to stretch a chalk line from here to the center line on the stern, measure out to each side just like we did on the bottom, and just make sure that these rails are not all over here or all over here. Just so that we have a boat that when people look at it don't go, boy, that thing's ugly and lopsided. Because it really doesn't affect the way the boat goes. The bottom of the hull is the only part that touches the water and will really have an effect on how straight or not straight it goes. So getting ready for the symmetry check, we have our line at about 2 inches width that we marked earlier. It's on the center line. So I'm just simply going to take the saw and cut it off flush, so we can set up the chalk line on the length of the hull to do the symmetry check for the outside of the boat. So we have it hooked at the bow, running all the way back to the stern. And if you ever noticed on these, the handle can snap into that groove, and that actually makes it hang off the string. So that gives me tension on the string so that I know that it's straight. So to demonstrate, take my chalk line. Now I have a line here so I can cheat, but I could also just kind of come up and touch the ruler. And I come over here to the edge and I'm looking at 11 1/2, give or take. Take it over to this side. And wow, that side's way out. I want this all the way back. No, I'm blocking the camera with my head, sorry. Yeah, we need a 1/2 inch different here. So, we could either make this side thinner, or we can make that side thicker. That's the decision that has to be made at this point, which way we want to go to keep the boat symmetrical for our 11 1/2 inch. Because we could thin this down, but then we're going to have to reprofile the outside of the boat. I may have to leave that on this one. I may have to just say, okay, at this point, 3/4 of an inch. It's not the end of the world, and on something this size, like I said, the part in the water is what counts. This part on the top, visually it can really look odd, but it'll still go straight as long as it doesn't interfere with your paddle. 3/4 of an inch, it's not the end of the world. It's more than I wish, but like I said, it is not the end of the world. So then going every foot, and it's easy enough to come up with a way to measure up from each foot, like right there. They're square. And then bring the ruler up so I can sight right down, and that is 15 1/8 to that side. And then 14.5. So I'm still a ½ inch wider on that side. This is one of those ones you can fight it and you can scab foam on and take foam off. My sidewalls are too thin to play anymore with this, unfortunately. So I am going to have to live with this the way it is. But now you understand another one of the risks that I took with making 2-inch wide ribs instead of 3-inch wide ribs. If I had 3-inch wide ribs, I could rip an inch or 3/4 of an inch, ½ inch off the outside, reprofile the hull, and no big deal. 2-inch, I'm not down to areas where I probably only have an inch of foam on these sides. Now, because it's stacked in layers, it's still maintaining its rigidity. It's not able to flex like I was talking about before when you push with your thumb, like in these thin spots like right here. I can't bulge the foam. I can't put my thumb through it without significant force. But I'm playing on the edge here, and I messed up. I got 3/4 of an inch here. I'm a ½ inch wider on there. And as I go down, I'm going to find the same types of things. If you're working with 3-inch ribs, you can recover from this. With 2-inch ribs, like I did, not so much. Especially not with the flared stack. If I had done a straight stack and only done the flare on this first one here and not the rest, and gone straight up here, I would have more meat to play with as well. I took a gamble of 2 factors and it bit me. But we'll see how this boat behaves once I put it in the water and once I do the stand on it test. See how if it's able to stand up or not, or if this was all a big waste and I'm going to have to scab foam onto the rails or something. But that's the beauty of foam. You can always add more onto it and it's just as strong. It's not like wood where you get all kinds of weird joints and it's really hard to deal with. Sometimes it's not recoverable. These are easy to reset and just keep going with.